Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and my marriage is not great right now. The health of my marriage is not great right now. I've talked about it in quite a few videos, but I haven't talked about how hard it's been or why it's been hard. This is one of two topics that I've been wanting to talk about on my channel, but that I've been afraid that I'll just cry through the entire time. The other subject. Funny subject, because I'd cry talking about the subject. The other subject is grieving, loss, death. I'm pretty positive that if I sat down to film that video, I would just cry the entire time, which if you're interested in that video, let me know in the comments. I'll just put on waterproof mascara and I'll just cry the whole time and talk to you about it. But this is the other big gaping open wound that I have right now. So anyway, I want to talk about why it's hard and what I'm doing. So with realizing that 50% of marriages end in divorce, what I realized very recently, and I feel like maybe this is obvious, like maybe you've already figured this out, but if 50% of marriages end in divorce, how many of the other 50% were close? You know, like how many were on the brink but didn't go there? Because it can't be, I always heard that statistic as 50% of marriages have big problems. But there have to be relationships that have big problems that don't end in divorce. There have to be so many of us who are hurting in our marriages right now, which has made me feel better for two reasons. One, because I am so far from alone. A lot of people are experiencing this. And two, it's hard. It's hard. Like 50% of people get out, and of that other 50%, there have to be a whole lot of others who seriously consider getting out. And I know there's a big chunk in there who don't get out but are miserable. And I'm really hoping there are some in there who have thought about getting out and decided not to and are really glad they didn't. And I want to be that minority. I want to be in that. I want to be there. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that I will not shut up about Brené Brown, okay? Big Little Feelings for kids, Brené Brown for rest of everything. So in Brené Brown's podcast, Unlocking Us, early on, I think it was in the Tarana Burke episode, Brené shares this incredible metaphor about marriage that I will not shut up about. So apparently the master bathroom in Brené's home has two different sinks, not a double vanity, but two different sinks on different ends of the bathroom. So she confessed that her sink has so much more stuff on it than her husband's sink, but she looks at her husband's sink, you know, with her sink behind her and not looking at her sink. And she's like, this, your sink is why we can't have nice things. This is why the house is a mess. Meanwhile, she's got 10 times the stuff on her sink, which I'm not saying that it matters who has more stuff on their sink. What matters is we're looking at the other person's sink instead of looking at our own sink. We need to focus on our sink for all the reasons. One, because hypocrisy is not cute, like period, but especially in a relationship, you know, saying like your sink's a mess when our own sink is a mess, like it's not a good look. Two, we always need to put the oxygen mask on ourselves before we put it on anyone else. So we need to clean our own sink before we can turn and point fingers at someone else's. Third, you can't change someone else. You can only change yourself. So even if you try and clean your other person's sink, it's not going to stay if they didn't do it themselves. Actually, there's a new YouTuber who I'm watching. Her name's Katarina. She's Finnish and she cleans her subscribers' homes for free. She's so cute. And these houses that she cleans are like hoarder environment, like the mold she finds, the like garbage everywhere. But she loves it. She knows that, you know, the home of someone whose home is that way because of mental illness, if they don't fix the mental illness, if they don't address those challenges, their home's just going to go back to what it is. Watch my self-tember video. How I talk about me trying to declutter all of the other pieces of my life, including my home. And you know that I love a labor comparison. Cleaning up your sink is kind of like labor. If you're pregnant, nobody's going to have that baby for you. You have to do the work to have that baby. Even if you have a cesarean birth, I don't care. You're still birthing that baby. You have to clean up your own sink. Nobody can do that work for you. There isn't a shortcut. You telling your partner to clean up their sink, You can't clean up their sink. They have to clean up their own sink. We all have to clean up our own sinks. It's hard. It's hard. And I think it's supposed to be. You know, when I think about every single one of my long-term relationships, friendships, family, partner, every single one of my long-term relationships has seen some things. I think going through hard things, not around them, but through them, is what makes our relationships better. Like, if you think about a video game, you know, when my husband's, he's gonna make fun of me because he's always like, you don't know anything about video games. Why are you making video game metaphors? Anyway, if you think about a video game, you know, you're not able to go to the next level until you beat the boss. You don't just like go through the level and be like, oh, I'm just gonna go around you, and then you go to the next level. No, you have to go through the hard thing at the end and beat that hard thing in order to level up. And I think it's the same thing with relationships. You know, if you haven't fought, then you haven't been through hard things, then you're not gonna level up. You're still at level 1. But when you get to those challenges, the hard part is, I think, you have to turn towards each other to get through it, to beat the boss. You've got to turn towards each other. You can't turn away. And do you know that story or that metaphor about heaven and hell, where this guy sees hell and it's a room of people sitting around. There's a big pot of stew in the middle and everybody has these really, really long spoons. The spoons are longer than their arms and they like can't feed themselves because the spoon is so long that they can't, which like just hold the spoon further down the hand. Like, you don't have to hold it at the end. Whatever. Anyway, but they're all starving. Everyone in the room is starving because they can't feed themselves. Then this guy sees heaven and it's the exact same setup, but everyone's feeding each other. They're feeding each other with a long spoon, so no one's starving, which, like, heaven's just soup. I think I'm missing the point. But I think that is the difference between couples who feel connected and couples who feel disconnected. You know, like, what are you going to do when times get hard? Are you going to try and feed yourself out of your, you know, the long spoon? Like, when you're starving, what are you going to do? Are you going to turn to your partner and feed your partner even though you are starving? Or are you going to just try to feed yourself? Which I'm realizing now that this is kind of the opposite of the put the oxygen mask on yourself. Metaphors are hard, guys. I think there are a few things that make it really hard. It's not just, oh, we've been hopping and skipping through this level and now we're at the boss. Of course we're going to feed each other. Joining my metaphors there. But, you know, when you've been together for a long time, when there have been lots of tiny little, you know, death by 1,000 paper cuts, lots of tiny little challenges that they accumulate. And I know something I'm particularly guilty of is that I will go to a 10 really fast because there will be something that I feel like I have, you know, gradually escalated my frustrations on and communicating my frustrations on, like, hey, I don't like this. Hey, I don't like this. Hey, I don't like this. I really don't like this. I need you to stop this. Please stop this. Are you kidding me? You know? And now I just go straight to, are you kidding me? I think another thing is the more we live with someone, the more we kind of like let our best behavior down. Like I want to say our guard, but it's not that we're being vulnerable. We just get rid of more and more of our tact. And I think our reactions become more and more raw, childlike frustrations. With the turning away versus turning towards, I think the reason that we turn away is because if you're hurt, it feels like either you did it to yourself or the other person did it, right? Because it's like, who else is going to do it? But I think that hurt can just be without blame. I feel like so many arguments. This happens in the workplace all the time. This happens in friendships all the time. Person A will say something that upsets person B, and then person B is like, yeah, well, I'm going to do something that's going to upset person A. And then person A is like, where did that come from? I'm going to do something that upsets person B. And then you're in this fight and it's all because person A did something that they didn't know was upsetting to person B. Well, A and B are you and your spouse. Surprise. Whoa. So stupid. How person B communicates or does not communicate to person A what happened, how they felt about it, and then how person A, if person B does communicate it to person A, how person A reacts. These are the turning towards or away pieces. And when we look at finger pointing or blame or trying to put responsibility on someone, I think that's when we turn away. When we turn towards, brace yourself. I'm going to reference another Brené Brown podcast episode. I've already referenced it, but Tarana Burke talks about the residue that experiences leave us with. She's the founder of the Me Too movement, and she says that empathy, Me Too, is not saying I've experienced that exact same thing too. It's I've felt that exact same way too. Like maybe I didn't have that sexual assault experience, but I have felt taken advantage of, or I have felt shame. In a marriage, when somebody says, hey, that hurt my feelings, or hey, that made me sad, instead of, how dare you, I didn't do anything upsetting, you can hear the feeling, not the finger. They need to hear, my partner's hurting, my partner's sad. I was that Pinterest quote that I think is actually like a Dalai Lama quote or some Buddhist way up there quote. The more you realize that another person's actions have more to say about them than they do about yourself, eventually you cease to react at all. So when your partner is saying that they're hurt, just hear the try. This is hard. All of this is hard. All of it's hard. But try to hear that your partner is sad. Not that you made your partner sad. Think of it as somebody else having made your partner sad. Because your partner being sad might be because of something that happened in your partner's childhood that you had nothing to do with. I think that's the ticket. When we see the stuff in our partner's sink, I think we need to not assume we know why it's there, not assume it's junk and needs to go, but I think we need to understand what's going on with our partner's sink and how they feel about it. And maybe how they feel about what's on our sink. Because there's stuff that might be comforting for me that's triggering for my partner, or vice versa. They say that the key to all of it is just being curious. Just be curious. Don't blame. Don't be, how dare you, unless you're asking, how dare you? Try that. I don't think that's gonna work. I know I heard recently, don't take advice from someone who hasn't done the thing you want to do. I feel like if you're watching this, I probably have not done the thing you want to do because I'm still in the bowels of really rocky marital challenges. But I'm going to tell you what I'm doing anyway, because maybe the things I'm doing would work for you and the things you're doing would work for me, because a lot of what I'm doing is stuff that I know has worked for other people and as therapist recommended. So I'm going to share that stuff with you now. To better understand my sink and how I feel about my husband's sink, I am remaining in individual therapy. That's something I will very likely do for the rest of my life. We're reading the book 8 Dates. If you know anything about, what's his name? Mort Fertile, who does a marriage fitness program. If you know anything about that, tell me what you think about that. I don't know how much it is. I know it costs something and there's stuff. And anyway, I just heard about it for the first time today. So tell me in the description box if you know anything about that. But yeah, the things I'm trying to do right now are show up every day best I can in my relationship. I'm trying to understand that it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to admit some of the stuff that's on our sink. And if the sink metaphor isn't really working for you, think about it being your laundry hamper that only has your dirty underwear in it. My dirty underwear is like practically clean. I don't have anything to be embarrassed about ever. I'm trying to hear my partner when he's saying, especially things he's repeat saying that he's struggling with. You guys, I forgot about one of the most important things that I'm doing. Enjoy some pictures of my husband and I while I tell you about this. You'll see why. So I had all Catholic education for forever, and one of my theology teachers in high school mentioned how she had a really challenging in-law relationship. I think it was her father-in-law, and she talked about this meditation that she did that was super life-changing, or relationship-changing. This theology teacher pictured herself walking into an empty theater. She sat down and the curtains parted, and on stage was her father-in-law, just standing or sitting there by himself. And one by one, people would bring out things that would make him happy. So either people he loved or things he enjoyed doing or stuff he liked. And she would just see him get happier and happier. And then when the stage was filled with him and the things he loves and his joy, the curtains would close and that was it. So I've been truncating that and just trying to picture my husband and myself happy, just trying to picture when we were happy, what we were doing, what we loved doing together, what we loved about each other, what we laughed about, just trying to really visualize the positives and the joy. And it makes me a little slower to anger now. So I hope that's helpful to you. And I'm trying to ask for the things I need in ways that aren't alienating, that aren't blaming or insulting, in ways that say, I'm here and I love you and I want us to be happy. Here's how I think we can get there. Here's what I need that I'm not getting and how I think we can get there. So far, it's not going great. Apparently, I'm not doing a very good job. If you are looking for community for people to talk with about your relationship challenges, for me, it's still really fresh right now, especially since, how many of my videos are about how to have hard conversations? And, I do really value relationships. So it's like, this is going to sound arrogant, I guess, but it's kind of the cobbler's kid has no shoes. Like, I keep talking about how to have more fruitful interpersonal relationships, and my closest interpersonal relationship feels like it's garbage right now. Not garbage, it's not feeling good. But the advice I have, or something I've learned when it comes to looking for people to talk with about your relationship, wade into those waters carefully. Sometimes the best people to talk to about relationship challenges, about marriage challenges, are people who are also experiencing or relatively freshly out of their own marriage challenges. Because it seems like people who do not have challenges, or at least aren't admitting to having them, and people who are not in marriages right now, like not in a long-term partnership, maybe have forgotten, or it's kind of like how new moms talk to new moms and they're like, oh God, how are you? Whereas I feel like sometimes grandmas are like, everything's fine, great, you're gonna have a baby, yay! And I think a lot of that's that grandma's just excited. But if you want to talk with me, I'm here. I'm on Instagram at Stacia Zoo. I'm gonna change that probably. I might make a Learning Curves profile, but you could just DM me at Stacia Zoo. Good luck. Wish me luck. That's it. That's all I have right now. Hopefully I'll be able to someday make a video that's like, I solved it! Here's how you win marriage. But that's not happening anytime soon. Although it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Maybe we're just about to figure it out. That's it. Thank you again for watching. If you like this video, please like this video and please subscribe. See you next time. Bye. Can you hear that I'm like picking my nail? Like out of nerves. I'm like, why would you want to hear that? Whatever. ASMR. Annoying sounds made right in front of your face. Right in front of your face is one word.